Welcome back into Tapped Out UFC 285. Everybody's talking about the John Jones fight, except for, the real no. It's Bo Nickal who is opening the card. And man, what a great spot for you. Bo Nickal taking on Jamie Pickett. And now he's on Tapped Out with us. Man, have you seen the odds? Have you seen how big of a favorite you are right now? Minus 2,000. Does that matter to you whatsoever?
No, I think it's close to appropriate. If it were, I think on point it'd be probably minus 4 or 5. But yeah, 2,000, it's all good.
Like, Bo, I don't think you realize. I don't know if you realize this. I don't know how into gambling you are. That's like a boxing thing. We don't see we see odds every single week. We don't see somebody that dominant favorite where somebody's saying, well, who he's taking on has no chance. Like, how much does that mean to you that you have made that much of an impression so quickly that people really just do think your opponents have no shot against you?
Yeah, I think a big thing for me, it was always a big thing in wrestling, is just continuing to build my reputation. I want to be known as a guy that finishes fights. And I think that my opponents, obviously, they're always going to come out with their best and make sure they're ready for me. But they know in the back of their head, in the back of their mind, the way this fight's supposed to go. And I think that has a big effect on them. And, for me, my confidence, it doesn't really so much come from the odds or what other people are saying or thinking. It just comes from my training and all the people around me. And so, I just get my confidence from that. But I think that at the same time, the odds makers kind of understand it as well. At least that's the way it seems to me.
Multiple-time NCAA Division I champion from Penn State, Bo Nickal, joins us here on Tapped Out. That's the wrestling side of it. And then I saw you step into the octagon the first time, throwing hands, knocking dude out quick. Where did those hands come from? Like, have you been training boxing your whole life or something?
No, I've been training boxing about a year and a half. I've only been doing MMA a year and a half. So I have really good coaches around me, being able to work with American Top Team and work with Mike Brown, work with Thiago Alves and all the other coaches they have there that are super high level. And then, I have a really good boxing coach at Penn State with me. His name's Musa Al-Suleimani. He's a young guy. He was a collegiate national champion in boxing. And so he's my I would say, head boxing coach and one of my best sparring partners, too. He probably had 70 amateur boxing fights, and he's a really high-level guy. So I learned a lot from him.
Bo, that extreme confidence, you talked a little bit about, how that's furnished. But, man, it's one thing to have confidence. It's another thing to execute. Like on the Contender Series, the kind of statement you made, man, because like we thought, you thought you should have gone after one, and then you go and double down on it. How did you come into it being like, I'm going to wreck this? I'm going to blow your mind even more so, because you knew like, oh, you didn't think the first one was good enough. Here's the second one.
Yeah, a little bit, right? Like, I think that definitely gave me a little chip on my shoulder. I wanted to prove that I was ready to go and ready to perform. And, for me, it was just a big opportunity and I made the most of it. So, my, I guess, assessment of my results is always based on my effort. And, both fights didn't last too long, but I did what I needed to do.
What's your timeline in your head? Because we actually just talked to somebody and they were like, yo, man, if Bo Nickal wins this fight, he needs to fight somebody in the top 15, top 10 right away. What's your timeline for this thing?
I rely on my coaches and my managers for those type of things. So for me, I'm just focused on getting better, improving, and making sure that I'm getting better as a fighter every single day and, more complete MMA fighter, right? Obviously, everybody knows I have wrestling. I'm starting to learn jiu-jitsu. I'm starting to learn striking. But those are things I still want to continue to grow in and develop. So, that question, I would say, really goes back to my coaches and managers, guys that have been in the game for a lot longer than me. I'll rely on them.
What is it about the wrestling, Bo? It's always like the fascinating thing with MMA is like, well, what's the best base to come into it? Why is that wrestling? Why does it make you so special? Because, watching the guys you've trained with, they said, man, right away, this guy came into the gym and they're like, he's throwing submissions in. He's amazing, incredible. What is it that gives you that base you come in with confidence that makes it translate to the sport so well?
I think the thing about wrestling is obviously, technically, there's a lot of advantage with being able to take guys down, being able to hold guys down, understanding position, things like that. So, technically that's a big advantage, but I think more than anything, it's the mentality and the preparation, everything that goes into being a high level wrestler. You know, I was wrestling hundreds of matches a year as a 7-8-year-old kid, you know, and so I have thousands and thousands of competition reps under my belt, right? Like if you look at an amateur boxing career, a lot of guys have, let's say a long amateur career would be, you know, 200, 300 fights. I was doing that like almost in 1 year as a kid in wrestling. And so, you know, I think that experience is just really, really invaluable. Like you can't express how valuable that is when I step out into the cage. You know, all that experience is there with me.
Yeah, I've heard Chael Sonnen talk about that. The idea that one of the things that sucks about MMA, you don't get so many reps a year early in your career. How many times do you think, ideally for you, I know, you know, sometimes injuries happen, but like early, do you have 4 in a year, 3 in a year? How many do you think you want to get in to try and get to the level you want to be at?
Yeah, so my first year in MMA, I had 5 fights. So my first fight was 1 month after I started training, and then I had another fight maybe 5 weeks after that, and I just kind of continued from there. So, you know, 5 fights in a year, I felt like that was a solid amount of experience that I was able to get. And you know, now being in the UFC, I don't know that 5's realistic, but yeah, you know, I would like to fight as much as I can.
Undefeated mixed martial artist Bo Nickal joins us here on Tapped Out. We're talking about your wrestling credentials. Does that mean growing up when you were watching this sport, mixed martial arts, that you were into the Chael Sonnens and the DCs and the Ben Askrens? Who were your dudes growing up?
Yeah, I definitely always rooted for the wrestlers, and you know, wanted the guys that I had that in common with to succeed. You know, and I feel like that still remains true today. When I see a wrestler out there, I definitely root for guys like that. And I think you just kind of have it's almost a brotherhood, right? Like you identify with each other, you know what each other have been through and the training and everything that goes into it. So yeah, 100%, I'm riding with the wrestlers.
Bo, I got to tell you, man, I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. Now that we're talking like face to face here, you're super humble. And when you're in like the octagon or when you're on the mat, you seem like a completely different dude. Do you understand like that you don't really have a ceiling and you could have the belt wrapped around your waist with this thing?
Yeah, you know, that's the plan. You know, for me, I believe in myself. I definitely put the time in, put the effort in, and I do everything that I need to do to achieve my goals. I'm 100% committed. And, you know, so I gain a lot of confidence from that. But at the same time, I don't ever feel like I'm too good to put the work in, or I'm never going to be too good to train or do the right things or be disciplined. And I think that's a lot of MMA fighters lose that mindset of humility and being able to genuinely assess themselves and where they're at. So, you know, for me, I try to maintain that. That just comes from wrestling, though, right? Like you have to remain humble because there's always people coming up trying to take your spot, and you know, I continue to use that mindset and implement that into my MMA career.
Yeah, you're fighting on obviously John Jones's return. It's a monster card to, you know, debut on pay-per-view, Bo. Getting a chance to be around John this week, what was that interaction like? How did he give you any advice on what it's like being on the stage?
No, it was definitely very cool. Very cool to meet him. Very cool to just kind of chat with him a little bit. And he's obviously one of the greatest of all time MMA competitors, and a guy that I watched so much growing up. And yeah, overall, just like a very cool kind of surreal experience for me to be on this card. With the fact that it was like, you know, him being the youngest ever UFC champ and now being who he is, and now I get the opportunity to kind of, you know, be on this card with all the excitement and buzz that is surrounding it, and, you know, use that to my advantage.
I was watching your highlights the other day in the UFC, and I was thinking, man, this dude would be a hell of a matchup against Khamzat Chimaev. And then I heard his name come out of your mouth. You think if you step in the octagon with that guy, would go all right?
Yeah, definitely. I feel confident in that matchup. You know, he wrestles hard. He's grappling heavy style. I think that most people know how those exchanges would go between us in that realm. Obviously, you know, he has more MMA experience than me, and he's got solid striking as well. So, you know, I guess if you're being objective, maybe he has the advantage there. But yeah, I think overall it'd be a really good fight. And he's a guy that I think is very, very tough, that I think is a high level guy.
Bo, Miami's very excited. They're getting a pay-per-view down here with Jorge Masvidal on the co-main event against Gilbert Burns. Hell of a matchup. You've worked with George a lot. Speaking with him last week, he kind of realizes this is like a back against the wall type of fight. How is it in the lead up? Have you noticed a mentality difference in him, or more of a desperation around him? I guess what's his mindset going into this hometown fight of his?
I wouldn't say desperation. I would just say that, you know, he's definitely focused. He's training hard, and he's excited for this matchup. I think it's a good matchup for him against a really, you know, a tough opponent. So it's going to be an exciting fight for sure. Gilbert, you know, he likes to bang, but he also has solid grappling and wrestling. And, you know, George has been working on his wrestling for a long time, just having fought so many wrestlers in a row. And so, yeah, I think overall it's just going to be a really exciting fight. Definitely cool to have it in Miami and with a home crowd advantage for George.
Last one, Bo, and then we'll get you out of here. And we appreciate your time. You talk about wanting to finish, and that's always what you did on the mat, and that's what you've done so far in the octagon. Do you care how you finish, choke a guy out, knock a guy out, or as long as you end up winning the fight, does it matter to you?
You know, the finish is definitely something that I think about and something I want to do. I want to be known as a guy that finishes a lot of fights. But I think really what I focus on more than anything is just giving my best effort and giving 100% of what I have. I feel like I have the skills and I'm dangerous enough to finish guys with knockouts, finish guys with all different types of submissions. And so that's something I'm always looking for. But at the same time, what I really judge the fight on is my effort. And so, you know, I expect to get a finish out there, but if I go 15 minutes and give 100% effort, then that's a win in my book.
Bo Nickal, a minus 2,000 favorite in UFC 285 on Saturday night. Great stuff, Bo. Good luck, brother. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate y'all.